What's going on?
Hey,
Hey, my sound worked.
your
Good.
sound worked.
Yeah.
Well, before we get started, Robbie, you fished this weekend. How'd you do?
Finished 36th, Morristown Marine. Caught several fish this weekend. Had a great time. Just no big ones. I think I had 1167.
Heck yeah. Me and Cal had 21.35 on Watauga.
But I've started out in a pretty good run. I've got to check the three out of the 4 tournaments I fished so far.
That's right. Well, we got pretty good people in here, so we'll go ahead and jump in. We got 2 special guests, as y'all have seen on our post. We have Matt Adams, which is owner of MMA and also a Bass Opens EQ angler. He just had a top 10 finish at Santee again. Sitting good in AOI, so we'll have him on here recapping those tournaments. And then we'll also have Brian, which is also works with MMA, and they'll be on here talking about the rods as well. So let's introduce both of them. There's Matt and there's Brian. How's it going, boys?
What's up, guys?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hey,
I'm just surprised you invited me back. Most people don't invite me back for a second time after I've been once.
Maybe if we don't get on a live scope tangent again, then it should be all right.
Are you bringing that up right off the bat?
Just for
Right
the record,
off
he
the
said
bat.
no live scope. He made it to 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
Well, we didn't make it 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Brian and I were here for 4 seconds, and he brought it up.
He's like, welcome to the show, live scope, guys.
Well, we
Live
might as well
scope
talk
show.
about it now, guys. 1 hour full of live scope.
Oh, so you had Santee Cooper last, and what'd you finish, 8th?
I finished 8th.
8th. So kind of run us through a week, like your practice and then through the event and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, like my first 3 events, I had a really poor practice, and everybody's like, "Oh, here we go again. He's sandbagging," and I'm poor mouthing, and I'm really not. I had a bad practice. I had a really bad practice. I was frustrated after the first couple of days. So I would say my biggest hurdle was probably the safety issue and just navigation travel across the lake, because this is different than any other lake. Like, you can't just load up and say, "I'm going across the lake." If you're going across the lake, you might have to go 10 miles one direction, run the middle cut, or you've got to run the poles at 95, I think. I mean, you can't just load up and run. So in order to bounce around and practice and kind of make something stick is a lot more difficult. And I never really found what I was looking for. I caught a couple fish every day, got bit a couple times every day, but I was not getting bit. I was really concerned about the tournament. Got frustrated at the end of, it would have been Tuesday, and kind of went back to Gunnersville style. I picked up a swim jig with a big trailer. I found some grass by the boat ramp, which I knew the grass at the boat ramp wasn't going to play. It's going to get pounded. I mean, you can't rely on something that close that looks that good. But I got 2 bites that keyed me in that they're eating bluegill, and I just started running other pockets. I found something that stuck. I caught an 8.4 and a 7.2 at the end of that night, and went back the next day. I had 3 or 4 bites, didn't set on them, and said, "Yep, I hope that they stay," and it worked out.
Sweet. So did anything change throughout the tournament, or stay pretty consistent? Did you have to run new water going into making it that third day?
It changed a lot during the tournament. I mean, a lot of guys, that were reporting they were live scoping to start, catching them out deeper on brush piles and all that. We had some warmer weather, but I think the bigger thing was the lake started coming up. We got quite a bit of rain. It brought some water up into the area I was in. I was in an area, I mean, it don't matter. You're going to see it on YouTube when I post a video. I was in an area called the Cow Pasture. It didn't open until March 1st. It's kind of a refuge area. So when I went in there, it wasn't a pressured area, but in my back of my head, I thought, well, there's probably going to be a lot of boats that know the same thing I do. It doesn't open until March 1st, so the fish aren't pressured. Let's beat on it. And I really didn't see a lot in the 2 times in practice I was in there, or day one. But the water coming up, I was fishing a combination of sawgrass, wiregrass, lily pads. They've got some, I can't remember what they call the lily pads down there, maybe crimson heart. I mean, it's like a red heart-shaped lily pad. It's got a big base the fish were spawning on. The water coming up in the warm weather definitely pushed some fish to me. So that definitely helped. And I think it helped everybody. If you look at the bags, I mean, my God, it was top 48 had over 20 pounds after day one. I mean, I stopped leaning on them at 1 o'clock thinking that 25 pounds was going to be in the top 5. Oh, I was wrong. That put me at 11.
That's crazy. So after that 8th place, that puts you in the top 3 for AOI, correct?
It does. It puts me 3rd. But I've talked to a couple people. Yeah, I've talked to a couple people, and Brian's heard me say it multiple times. I'm a baseball guy. You got 9 innings in baseball. I don't know if anybody remembers who the hell was winning going into the 4th inning. So, I mean, there's still a lot left that can happen.
Oh, yeah. So what you got next?
Logan Martin, get sleep in my home bed. So
Sweet.
That's first of May. I'll spend a lot of time on Logan. Off limit starts April 14th. So, I mean, I've got, after we get back from Oklahoma this week with pre-fishing on Eufaula a little bit, not really pre-fishing, more looking around in the Classic. I'll have a few weeks to kind of do some stuff on Logan.
Sweet. You excited for that one?
Yeah, I mean, the obstacle you're going to get with Logan is it's not going to fish. I mean, it's not going to fish big like santee, and I mean, it's not that santee and Okeechobee. I had a lot of pressure. I mean, they're damn partying there on day 2. Like, there's a lot of guys I didn't see on day 1 that invited themselves to a party on day 2, and I didn't know about that invitation. I wish I would have got it. I'd have known to try something different for a little bit. But Logan is going to fish very small, so that. The big thing is not where to catch fish, but I think for me, more than anything, is going to be where is everybody going to concentrate, which is going to kind of tell me where I need to go and what I need to do.
Sweet. So, is this the first time you ever seen Eufaula?
This is the first time I've ever seen Eufaula. I mean, but I'd never been on Okeechobee, Ouachita, or Santee, so I mean, might as well just strap it up and go. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of hoping
Sweet.
bad practice here too. Everybody keeps saying, they think I'm poor mouth. I'm not. I've had some really bad practices. Practices where, hide the spear point hooks. I was gonna stab myself.
It's almost one of those things that if you have a good practice, you almost get worried about it.
Oh, I hope I don't get a damn bite. I don't want to bite. I don't want to have a good practice. Let's just keep it rolling the same way it's rolling. Let's not change anything right now.
Don't change it
I
up.
understand. Because if I have a really good practice, I go into it with my hopes up too much.
Yeah, and look, the Coosa River, the one thing that, and Brian can echo this, the Coosa River, where you're talking about, Weiss, Neely, Logan, Jordan Mitchell, Lay's really notorious for it too, is just because they're there one day, it don't mean that they're going to be there the next. It's one of those things that you can't pattern it. Let me back up. You can pattern it as far as what you can catch them on and how you can catch them, but you cannot pattern an area because those fish will be gone the next day. You better have a bunch and you better run a lot. It's completely different than Okeechobee, Santee, Ouachita. Those were places you got in an area that had fish. If you pick your trolling motor up, you're getting beat. You may have to run 40 different spots on Logan Martin.
Running down.
So it's a different animal. Yep.
Yeah. Some of it's timing too. I mean, you can go back to some of those areas later in the day. The fish will move back in, but it's just a roll of the dice on the Coosa River. And I mean, like he said, you can't pattern them, but this time of the year coming up, I'll have a couple of rods on the deck, maybe 3, and I'll fish those rods for 2 months, but not in the same areas. Like you said, they move around. So water fluctuates a lot around here. So we have a lot of current, but the water fluctuation, I mean, they'll pull out. If it drops a 1/4 inch, they're gone. If it goes up a 1/4 inch, they're going to try to climb onto the bank. So you just got to kind of run a lot of holes. Like you said, that's kind of the deal around here.
What's your estimated wage for that tournament?
You talking to win it?
Say top 10 and win.
The variable that I keep coming back to is the reported date for the lake to finally be full pull is the 1st of May. So, you're going to have fish in all 3 stages. A lot of guys can't believe, they're going to be post-spawn. Not necessarily. A lot of those fish will wait. I mean, Brian caught one that had just got done spawning 2 years ago that was almost 8 pounds. That was the first week of June. So we're going to have fish in all stages. I'm going to say top 10, you're probably going to be looking at 44 pounds. No, to make the top 10. No, I'm sorry. 2-day total, you'll need, I think 14 and a half, 15 a day is probably what you'll see for like a 10th place finish, which is 3 days.
Yeah.
I think 14 a day, probably 28 to 29 pounds.
I think you're going to see
there's
that.
There's going to be a lot of that 11-pound bag.
Yeah. I think you're going to see that too, where somebody can come in with 18, 19, 20 pounds, but to back that up again is really hard to do. So you'll have that fluctuating bag. You'll have a big bag one day and a small bag the next, unless you can get on something,
So it's not one of those tournaments where you see the first day and you're like, yeah, this guy's got a shot to win.
Yeah. So
Not
it could be anything any day. So
I think 48. I think if you've got 48 for 3 days, 16 a day, I think that you ought to feel really good about where you're at. You got some variables that are going to play. You're going to have where, do we have a shad spawn going on? Is there a mayfly hatch? Did the water get up to full pull? Do we get a bunch of rain and they're pulling a bunch of current? I mean, this is one of those tournaments like Okeechobee. You knew what you're getting. You're gonna find fish that are moving into spawn. You're fishing shallow. You're probably gonna fish around a crowd. Ouachita was a roaming deal with the Demiki rig, or Jeremiah Kendi won it with a rattle trap on windblown guts with grass. He's local. He knew that. And then same thing as Santee. I mean, it was a bed fishing, shallow water deal. Logan could be anything from a shad spawn to an offshore bite to dock flipping to being up at the North Dam. I mean, there's so many different patterns. I'm not going to give my pattern. You guys can forget that shit. I'm not going to give up what I'm planning. I'll tell you what everybody else might do to try to win.
Anybody watching trying to steal some secrets?
They just mad from talent here. That's the only people that are upset right now.
Yeah. Oh, Shorty's not here tonight.
We ain't got nobody to pick on tonight.
I was still
He's supposed to have worn a leprechaun outfit tonight.
It is St. Patrick's Day.
He probably took some NyQuil and took a nap.
Well, at least we know why he's working now.
Would it be funny though for his work? He had to wear like a leprechaun where it's St. Patrick's Day, and he's a server.
Just get it on video.
It was kind of funny seeing him walk up with that bag because I mean we had 21, but we also my bag's like small, so when you have a lot of water and fish in it, it's heavy as hell. That some bitch just weighed about as much as he did. He's walking like this right here, trying to go up to the daggum scale.
He wasn't doing that. It's because you're 2.5 foot taller than him, carrying one side of it. So he was leaning downhill real hard.
I'm just surprised Gavin brought the bag this time. Last time I fished with him, we had to borrow somebody's bag.
Ooh. Only reason why I did that was because of the tournament before I left my bag in a 1, so I'm superstitious. So
you'd think he would have an MMA bag since he's on the MMA team, but you know,
you would think.
I kind of do need a new bag. My bag leaks horrible. Oh shoot! Well, let's talk about MMA. Well, y'all want to start talking about the rods? You got the classic coming up. Tell a little information about the classic, where you're going to be setting up at and stuff like that, in case anybody's making that haul down there to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Well, first off, let's start with our guy. Will Davis is fishing the classic. So, that's going to be the first goal, is kind of giving him the support and, a little bit of the fanfare that he deserves and needs, because anytime you qualify for the Bassmaster Classic, that's a big accomplishment. And there's no stage. I don't give a crap if you're a Red Crest fan. There is no stage like the Bassmaster Classic.
Speaking of Red Crest, have you seen? I didn't see hardly anything about Red Crest this week.
But,
I never even paid attention to it.
No, they probably couldn't show up because they didn't have a co-angler to sign up with.
I mean, in all seriousness, congratulations to DC. I mean, he's been on a hell of a run the last 2 years, and he's a great fisherman. There's some really good fishermen that's in the BPT and NMLF in general, but I mean, come on, man. Those guys deserve so much better than what they're getting right now as far as the media and the exposure and the recognition. I mean, you got him and Wheeler and a couple other guys that are accomplishing things in the sport that are pretty prolific, and most people don't even know about it. That's sad.
Like when the Bassmaster Class is going on, you can't go through social media without seeing a post about it. Like,
no, if you platform is second to none.
I didn't even know hardly. I forgot Red Crest was going on until I went to sign up for the Dale Hall event and seen that it was Red Crest week.
Well, to tell you where it's at, we decided not to go to the expo, and it's 40 minutes from our house. We didn't set up the expo. We're driving 10 hours to set up at the Bassmaster Classic Expo.
Yeah.
So anyway, not to down MLF, but Brian will be, I come over, I get to play for a couple days. Brian and Blake will be dragging the trailer. Wednesday morning with all the rods, we'll set up. We're on the first floor at the Bassmaster Classic in the Expo Hall.
Grand Hall, yeah.
So
you have Nick Holtz with you too, don't you?
Yep. Nick will be setting up some custom painted crankbaits, glide baits, all that. We'll have some specials going on, that kind of thing. Brian will be kissing babies and signing autographs,
I'm just bringing the Sharpie for you and Will.
Yeah.
Going to make sure you have the Sharpies.
I can't spell my names.
That's funny.
You can just put hashtag, oh no.
Oh, yeah. They don't know nothing about that one yet. You want to hear the story behind that one, Gavin?
No.
Do you want to hear the story?
Sure.
So at Santee, I've got a co-angler on day one. And I had 5, and we're going back and forth on one main stretch, and I think like 22 pounds. I had a good bag. I thought it was better than what it really was at that point. So I try to be accommodating my co-angler. Like, we're going to sit there and talk. I mean, if you can't enjoy the day, then what the heck's the point in fishing? And so I was throwing a flashy swimmer with a big swim bait. Everybody back home thinks I was throwing a swim jigger frog. I wasn't. And so I gave him one, but I didn't give him the color I was throwing because I didn't have many of them. So I gave him a little bit of an off color. It was kind of like a black and green pumpkin. Still a good color, bluegill color. He's throwing it on a medium heavy of 14-pound mono and all these pads. And he sets a hook, and and he says giant. You know, I mean, you got a co-angler, you never know. Oh, it was a giant. Fish was over 8. Comes up and jumps and throws a hook, and the first thing went through my head. This is awful, but I'm just straight up about stuff. The first thing went through my head was, I might catch her ass in the next 2 days. So you're kind of, you know, as a boater, you're kind of glad the fish comes off because you're fishing for so much. And I literally, and I didn't realize how bad it was on the GoPro. And Brian's watching the footage, and I made the comment. I said, "Oh no," and just kept fishing. You know, you could.
Oh no!
Oh,
Yeah. So you see that come out, I kind of feel bad because I mean, if I was that guy, I'd be like, "This guy's a dick," you know.
I was like, Matt, you felt bad about that one, huh? So we might have an MMA shirt that says #Oh no. I mean, I don't know. It might come. We know. We got a few that might come out.
Somebody commented and said #what an ass.
Oh, that's
Hey,
yeah.
if it fits, wear it, I guess. No, though, I mean, here's the thing, and we won't talk about the forward-facing sonar, but the whole co-angler thing is a big debate right now. I mean, it's tough. So, I mean, from the Bassmaster Open standpoint, the times you get a co-angler and don't can be the difference in you finishing 14th in points and finishing in the top 9. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on that. And I mean, as much as you want to be a people person, you want to be, you know, a fan of the guy in the back of the boat, it'd be happy for him. And when he catches a fish that takes away from your bag, that's not a good moment for a boater. It's just not.
Especially if it comes down to the last tournament and he could catch the fish that could get you into the elites.
Absolutely. And as tight as this has become and as competitive as the opens are, one fish in a year can cost you 3 spots in the standings. Imagine being the guy that comes 11th and 12th.
And this sounds crazy, but the one thing that I will say that MLF has is on their tournament series to qualify for the BBT, the Invitationals, they don't have co-anglers. So why in the heck does Bass Opens have co-anglers?
Money.
I think Bass needs to open a league that's like the Toyotas.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, and this is going to sound, but I'm not criticizing BFL, but that's a BFL thing. That's an ABA, a TBF, a BFL thing for co-anglers. I mean, if you're competing on some stage that is for something this big, I mean, look, we're paying $2,000 a tournament for the opens. I mean, that ought to be enough to not have to worry about. And I don't get me wrong, I've been blessed. I've got some great co-anglers. The co-anglers I've had this year, awesome. Don't mean I want one.
Yeah. Well, I started off a long time ago, you know, as a co-angler. So I get it from both sides. And I'm all about the co-angler, and I've tried to help every co-angler that's been in my boat, I've tried to help them. I've driven my boat backwards for them to where they could fish like they were fishing off the front of the boat before to get a check. You know, I've had a crappy day. I'm not going to do anything, but if he catches a limit, he's going to get a check. So put the trolling motor in reverse and start heading up river, let them fish. I see it from both sides, but being a boater for a long time now, also, I do worry about that boater in the back or the non-boater in the back. I'm just like, okay, I've got to angle the boat where he can fish. That's just how I am. I'm not going to say, you know, screw him. He can just get the scraps. I'm going to turn the boat where he can fish and all that kind of stuff. And it affects what I'm doing. It affects my performance. And I would rather on the Toyotas, as well as Bass Opens, I would rather pay the couple $100 extra and run a GoPro or something like that, like they do on the Opens. That's just that's my preference. That's what I would rather do. I mean, if they have polys in place and you can run a camera, then that's good. And you won't have situations. We've got one right now. Smith Lake's coming up on the Toyotas. I was guaranteed my co-angler backed out and didn't tell me. So I get an email, I'm on a waiting list. Well, I call them and I'm like, I'm not on a waiting list. They're like, yeah, you are. Your co-angler called and backed out of both tournaments. So I'm scrapping now. Matt is also. He may go over there and fish that one just because he don't have anything to do, but I'm going to try to qualify for the championship through the wild card. And I'm having a hard time finding a co-angler now because of the lake that it is. Everybody's like, all the co-anglers are like, well, we don't want to do that because it's going to be a forward-facing deal. And they're going to put us out in the middle of the lake chunking an A-rig behind the boat. And I don't blame them. I get it. But at the same time, they're keeping guys from fishing the tournament as boaters. So at some point, MLF is going to have to address it and say, look, we either got to have to cut the co-anglers out or we're going to have to do something to get those co-anglers to sign up on these tournaments. I see it on both sides, but I would rather pay the extra couple $100 and fish by myself.
Put a marshal on the boat. It can't cost that much to have a marshal ride along for a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what don't make sense to me is they say it's not fair for people to fish with a co-angler. This is their argument with BFLs. I don't know about Toyotas, but their argument is it's unfair for people to fish with a co-angler and then have somebody that's fishing by themselves. But then they allow you to have a observer. If you get boater on boater, you can call somebody and be like, hey, just like Cal had it down there at Norris. He had an observer in his boat. So how is that any more fair or unfair? Because
I don't agree with that.
Well, the observer's
I
not
agree
fishing.
if you are a guaranteed link, your co-angler ought to be go into the boat of those boater on boater draws, and you get the observer.
Yeah,
I mean, we know the rules before we start.
Yeah,
with the co-angler situation, but it is unfair.
Somebody asked.
I don't know if there is a. I don't know if there is a good answer. To bring an ice. It is not. It is perfectly legal, David, for them to bring a forward-facing setup. Matter of fact, I think if you look on Scott Martin's YouTube channel at Okeechobee, he actually shows on video a boat that was on the flat with him there at Harney Pond. The other boat, the co-angler in the back, had a setup that he was using.
And my only argument with that is interference on my graph.
That or damaging your boat or your equipment.
Yeah.
Other than that, I have no problem with it.
Yeah, because you're going to get interference from that guy's graph from yours. Because you can get 50 feet away from somebody with live scope and get interference from them. Like put your trolling motor down in the water when you're sitting there before you take off. Your screen is like going haywire. So
the next thing is the time aspect. You can't tell me it doesn't take him time to get that taken down, to put it into the cockpit. I mean, one of my biggest issues with let me back up before I release too much here. One issue that I've had this year is I've had an individual in my boat that took way too long to get his stuff put up to where I could move. And I'm not talking 30 seconds.
I had that. I'm not going to say what lake it is or anything like that, but I had a person that was like, I usually try to tell my co-anglers, unless it's like a split decision, hey, we're about to leave. Like if we're fishing down the bank, hey, when we get to that point, if we didn't catch anything, we're leaving. Or hey, in about 5 minutes, we're going to leave. Well, I'm going to go down this stretch, and once we go down this stretch, we're going to leave. And I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting in the box, and this guy has got all his rods in the back of the deck, and they're all tangled up, and they're all twisted around. So I'm sitting there with the boat started for like a good 10 to 15 minutes. And we only got like an hour left to fish. So I'm trying to hop around. So when we left, I literally told him 20 minutes. I was like, hey, go ahead and get your stuff ready down because I'll push it to the last second. I'm usually that guy's pulling in with 30 seconds to go before we're due in. And that just kills you.
Well, you messed up. You had to just throwing his rods off and giving him your code to MMA. He had to buy new ones. I will say mine was not a co-angler. So you can figure out who else has been in my boat 2 times this year.
Something's gonna. I mean, I can see it coming already. Something's gonna have to be done.
Come on, Gavin.
Co-anglers, I don't mind them, you're going to have things that they'll do or whatever. I had one throw over my head, literally. His line went across my shoulder. And I said, if you do that again, I'm going to cut your line. And 15 minutes later, line went over my shoulder. I picked up my scissors and cut his line and threw it over to the side and kept going. He's like, why'd you do that? I said, because I told you I was going to do that. But you have those things. But I think the bigger issue right now is the boater-on-boater draw and not being able to get into a tournament unless you have a co-angler link. That's where the issue is right now, and it's becoming a problem.
I think the bigger issue is not necessarily the co-angler link for me. The bigger issue is when you have a co-angler that links with a guy and signs up ahead of time and commits to 3 events, and you've got a guy that's paid his money that's expecting to go in with a guaranteed boater spot to not get boater on boater. I had it happen to me last year, Gavin. Cal come and fished at Chickamauga because I had a guy back out on me. So when a guy has paid his money, signed up as a link, and he backs out last second, that's hard to punish the boater for that. I think that co-angler should lose his money and you put a marshal in his boat. Or
and we don't want to worry about that stuff.
Boater on that.
Yeah, and we already worry about enough stuff. Why do we have to worry about trying to find a co-angler and making sure we don't get boater on boater? Because the night before the tournament, we're all stressing about if we're going to get boater on boater instead of actually stressed about what the hell we're going to do the next day at the tournament.
Yeah.
And then
I've had it happen to me the last 2 years. Like, I've had signed co-anglers going into the season and they back out, like, right at the last minute, and it leaves
not to get
scrambling.
Not to get down the rabbit hole, but I don't think taking live scope away is going to help the cause anyways. No. Not to get down that rabbit hole. But the reason why I say that is there's so many.
Again. Here we go.
No, I said I didn't.
I'll say if you bring it back up, we banned it forever.
That's right.
But there's so many situations that you got a lot.
We're going to have to baptize Gavin in the Coosa.
You have so many co-anglers that used to do it for a long time that are now becoming boaters. I know 3 people that was beside me at Norris that literally said that was their first tournament as a boater because they fished 3 years as a co-angler and they just wanted to be a boater. They were tired of not being in charge and not being around fish or getting bad boaters or bad experiences or anything like that. So
late expectations right now is absolutely affecting the numbers because if you look at Okeechobee, we had a full field of 150 co-anglers. You go to Ouachita, you had 58. You go to Santee, you have 100 and is it like 125 or 130? I'll bet you at Logan Martin we're way under 100. Because as you go north, the expectation is going to be the FFS is going to take over. So you're going to, I'm not even going to say it out loud, but it's going to take over and co-anglers aren't going to fish. And I mean, I don't know the answer. I don't know. I mean, tournament director's going to have to sit down, but I mean, you leave it to FBD, as one of the other anglers on BPT says. He'll mess that up for Toyota Series. And it don't stand for flipping boat docks in case anybody really believes that story.
That's some funny crap right there. Oh, jeez.
Anyway.
Dustin's the only co-angler we got here. What's your thoughts on it, Dustin? Because you're the only co-angler.
Or what? Forward face?
Just a co-angler, just in general. Like, as a co-angler, what would be
your
reason?
Do you want to fish Smith Lake as a co-angler?
Hey,
Brian needs a link.
If I can get off,
you want to sign up as a link? Heck yeah!
I be the guy that backs out. I'd hate to. I got to work. Y'all was talking about earlier the running gun, and it made me think. I would almost rather be at the back of the boat with somebody forward facing than running gun, because I'm the co-angler that don't want the boater to wait on me. So I'm trying to start late and quit early, kind of where he starts moving. So that right there would be, I'd rather forward face. At least I got a line in the water.
Yeah.
And if he's forward facing, you do know he's around fish because he's looking at him.
Yeah, true.
And the one thing I will say opposed to forward-facing sonar is that he may be looking at it, but he's not going to catch every fish that's out there roaming around.
I can't tell you how many times I've turned around and they'll be behind me.
Yeah.
And you know what
Or
you're
they'll
getting
sneak
into.
up and like I just scan this way and I scan back this way and there's one like at like the back left.
And you're throwing at it. That's
I
what I'm
am.
going to tell you next time. I'm going to take Brian's idea and say, Gavin, next time you throw over my head, I'm cutting your crap. I don't care if I am on your boat.
And the one thing that drives me crazy about co-anglers when it comes to live scoping is I had this down there at Del Hollow when I finished like this last time. And I didn't say nothing to him because he was a kid and it was his first time fishing. And I'm sure his dad told him to do this. And he didn't do this until I had 5. I would throw on a fish and he would throw right beside of me.
He was
And
fishing like a team trail.
Yeah, and you know that first cast is never right on most of the time. Like you sometimes have to adjust it or you made a bad cast or whatever. So I was like reeling up and I'd get caught on his line. Or I'd reel up and I'd have to cast over his line because it was actually farther or more to the right or whatever. So that
So let
gets
me ask you this,
frustrating.
Gavin. How many times did he pull fish off of that brush pile, or how many times did he pull fish away from where you were fishing that cost you the opportunity to catch that fish? Because we all know using forward-facing sonar, if you pull a fish away from where it starts and he gets too close, you're not catching him until he sets back up.
Here's what happened to me more than often. I was catching fish this far under the surface. I'd make my bait go in there quiet. Next thing you know, that fish goes pew, opposite direction. And that's another thing. It's like I can't have that happening if I'm fishing for fish that are that far under the surface. Or they try, or they land. I can't tell you how many times I've turned around that he made a good cast on the fish, but he messed it up because he made a big splash, or he let it fall right past the fish, which I know they can't help that. But that fish was coming right towards me.
Hey,
because
Rob
I
Welsh,
can't tell you how many.
Rob Welsh in the comments got a good point. I'm going to start doing like them other codes on the MLF website going on their back. I'll sign up if you pay my entry fees.
Oh, you hear that all the time.
Man, they are starting to say, hey, y'all pay my entry fee, I'll sign up. I don't care.
Can't. You know there'll be a bunch of people out there doing that crap too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. That's what it's coming to. I had a message the other day. It's like, hey, I'll sign up with you, but I have to practice with you every day. And I'm like,
I'm seeing it a lot.
I don't mind that, but when you're putting that on the table and making an ultimatum,
like you're gonna pay for my gas and stuff.
Yeah.
My last co-angler, on Norse, he didn't have a problem with forward-facing sonar. He said, I've learned to adapt, and he's finished. I mean, he's going to All-American this year, and this is his second year, going into his second year as a co-angler on BFL. And he just says, I adapt and do something totally different than what the boater's doing, throw totally different. He said, I get lucky a lot of times. He said, but I don't let that get in my mind and bother me.
Well, he finished second at Del Hollow. And
yeah.
Go ahead.
But I didn't use forward-facing sonar.
Yeah, there's a lot of lakes around here, and Gunnersville is one of them. That, you know, if guys are using forward-facing, you need to be chunking and winding because there's a lot of those fish you can't see that you'll miss on that forward-facing sonar. They're buried up in the grass or something like that. I mean, so co-anglers can pick those fish off.
I throw in a DT 10 and 70 foot, Gavin.
he caught a freaking one of our keepers out of 70 foot on a DT 10 throwing it out of the back of the boat.
Hey, he was bringing to the boat. I was just chucking and winding.
Nick Folk said something, though. He said, my favorite experience as a co is getting into a guy's boat, and he ate more than he fished. Guys brought 2-foot-long subs, a family-sized bag of chips, 12-pack of Coke, and a dozen cookies. Ate this all on a 7 to 3 day. Think he was on the front deck for about an hour total.
Dude, I ate that.
I had a guy on my boat on the championship Saturday that I told you he didn't bring rods. He did that this last trip to Santee Cooper. I made 12 casts before he picked up the camera.
Somebody, David
that
said,
biscuit in.
Man, my co-angler stuff. My co-angler stuff went sour like 5 years ago when the boater I drew had me fishing docks on Gunnersville.
Yeah,
I think
we know a girl that fishes BFLs, and she no longer fishes BFLs because the last one last year, her boater put her in a dock slip and was fishing a brush pile on the outside of the dock, but he put her in the dock slip where she couldn't fish, and they stayed there for like 5 hours.
I can't do that, y'all. I can't.
That's
I can't.
what's killing
It's not
it.
in me. Now I will say, getting back to that, something that goes through my head, and this went through my head at Santee a lot, is my choice of baits was something that I wasn't sure about because they had changed overnight on what baits to use. If I don't have a co-angler, I can go down it and come back with another bait. If I have a co-angler, I feel like I've almost got to rotate baits continuously, and it completely and totally changes up how much water you can cover and how far you can get before somebody comes in behind you.
Yeah.
And so that's another aspect to it that people don't think about. Like, I'm rotating 3 baits until I figure it out.
Yeah, that or you have to fish it once with a bait, leave, come back and fish it with another bait because he's following you up with something. So that makes a lot of sense.
Because my biggest thing with co-anglers is getting me like in my head. Because I've had co-anglers that are all like yappy about we should do this, or we should do that, or we should do this, or we should do that, or we should do this. Or you got like a know-it-all. Or you just
around, ain't he?
Hey, I get in the boat. I told him one time, sit down, shut up, you drive it, I'll fish it. Okay?
I think we zeroed.
Hey, are you sure you don't have any off days?
You know?
I need a co-angler for Smith Lake. Come on, guys.
Hey, it is free agent season. I'm gonna get on the MLF and say highest bidder for the next South Hosting.
What's that, Dust? What's that? What's that? You trying to leave me?
You better put clocks and toolets or something, but that price is getting expensive.
Okay, well, before it gets too late, let y'all talk about the rods, where you're from, why y'all just wanted to make a rod, and basically, if anybody's out here that don't use MMA, which I think half of our viewers right now is MMA, but why they should pick MMA over other companies. I got my reasons, but
you want me to, or Brian? Go ahead.
I'll do it. So we fish, right? A couple years ago, we were out fishing. There was already talks and some plans about, maybe doing a rod, but we just got in a big conversation about what we liked about this rod or that rod and all that kind of stuff. And Matt had a kind of a bad experience with a rod that he broke and called the guy. He was on pro staff with the team and called the guy. I was like, I broke this rod, but it was really no big deal because he'd had it for a long time. And the guy's like, no problem, pay your fee, whatever, go change it out at this tackle store, whatever, and get your rod. So he went and got the same rod. Well, next time out, he broke the same model in the same exact place. So he calls the guy and he's like, hey, broke this rod again. You might want to look at him. And he's like, well, you're setting the hook too hard. And
7-foot heavy plus.
Like, no. Yeah. He's like, no, I'm not. It's 2-pound fish. It's in river grass. I mean, river grass around here is like standing. It's got a stem with leaves on it. So it's not like a lot of resistance, And the guy said, well, you don't understand. You don't own a rod company. And he said, well, I will tomorrow. Click. So that's kind of how it started. And then, we just started evolving, designed the rods, and we've adjusted those Gen 1s to what we have now is the Gen 2s. We've actually added a lot of models, and we have most of our models in different lengths. But they're built. Here's the thing. We're fishermen. We're not big fishing industry company owners that said, hey, let's put a rod series out there. We're fishermen, and we build our rods to perform better for us because we're actually tournament fishermen. So we want that high quality rod. We want it to do what it's supposed to do. We want it to load how it's supposed to load. We want it to be dependable and reliable. So that's a little bit what makes us different. and the fact that when you call us, you get one of us, me, Matt, or Blake, or Greg. One of us. You're going to talk to us personally on the phone. And I think that goes a long way. We're kind of our pro staff's kind of a network and kind of a buddy system. Anybody watching the podcast right now that's on our team will tell you they call me, I call them. I talked to 300 people in a couple weeks probably, but that's just kind of how it started, and that's where we're at. I mean, we're fishermen, and that's kind of cliche. It's built for fishermen by fishermen, but that's really what it is. And Matt's proving it on the opens. Will's proving them on the elites. They're really good quality rods, and we stand behind them. And we strive to have the best quality and the best rod out there. Are there some other good rods? Of course. We just think ours is better for our market, and they're designed to fish like we fish. But we do keep people like Gavin in mind that like to throw the fairy ones. So we went that angle a little bit and added some models on that side. But seriously, everything that we hear and everything that we do is we listen to you guys, and any suggestions that we hear, we try to seriously think about that. And if it's practical, we'll put it in our lineup. So, that's just kind of a rundown. We'll be at the Classic. We're going to have some good deals going on at the Classic. We're also still accepting pro staff for a little while longer. We got a pretty good team. And like I said, it's a network. Any of my pro staff guys, I could call them and say, hey, I want to come and fish a lake up there. They're going to say, come on. And they'll do it for the other pro staff guys too. And that's what's special about it is these guys see each other, meet each other, work together, talk to each other on the phone. And we've kind of got a special thing going there, as opposed to calling a company or being on a pro staff and getting an email once a month, or calling the company and talking to a secretary that doesn't know anything about a fishing rod, So we're excited about what the future holds, and we're proud of what we've accomplished this far. But we're just going to keep rolling with it and see what happens. And hopefully this Classic will be good. We can pick up some guys out in the Oklahoma area, and just roll from there. Matt, you got anything to add to that?
My big thing, like, look, y'all, it's field tested 365. I mean, Gavin and I talked. I told him about the 7.6 medium we just came out with. There's a reason for that. It's because as far as the Demiki rig, it's getting you away from the trolling motor. It's letting you make longer casts. It's a better pendulum effect. It's all things that if somebody's wearing a suit, no offense to anybody who wears a suit to sell a rod, but I'm not taking my car to a mechanic that wears a suit either. And so you want somebody that understands the sport, that understands what you're, really looking for, because let's be real, a lot of your fishermen don't really know. They think they know what they want, but in the end, it's our job to try to put them in the best position possible to be successful, because we are not a low-end rod. We are a rod that is for your tournament fishermen. We're going to be a company that is going to appeal to, your guys that are very serious about their tournament angling. You're not going to find it on the shelf at Walmart. So in that, it's expected us to have high quality. Now, the human error is going to happen. If human error happens, you will get Brian or I or Blake or somebody like we talked about. But it's just to give you an example, our extra heavy rod has a more moderate tip on it. You know why? Because people don't realize when they use an extra heavy rod, they rip a hole. They're ripping a gigantic hole in a fish's mouth, and they can't understand why they're losing fish on a frog. They're losing fish punching. That's because you have 65-pound braid with a broomstick. What do you think is going to give? It's not the rod or the braid. It's got to be on the other end. So, I mean, there's just certain aspects of it that's kept in mind. I am proud that it's USA made. Most of my family's military. I had every opportunity in the world to go across seas with it. Didn't do it. There are challenges staying inside the United States, but we're very proud that we're USA made. We're proud that we've stayed here. And that's what we plan to do. I'm very appreciative for Brian. Brian takes a lot off me when I'm going to the opens. I just kind of text him, say, here, handle this. I don't want to deal with it whenever I'm pre-fishing. but I have a guy that can handle that you can get hold of at any time, and Blake same way. So, I mean, do we think we have the best product? Absolutely. Are there other good products out there? 100%. You know, and if anybody's watching this trying to figure out what rod fits you, there's plenty out there to choose from, but you better find a company that you can deal with the people that's behind it too.
That's what I was going to say, add on to it. The biggest thing that I love about y'all's company and stuff is the support from everybody as well. Like, even like from our post, like my post says, when I finished 7th at Del Hollow, how many people from MMA was commenting on my stuff. The support group that y'all have, and just being able to contact y'all with a problem or a situation, or if I need this or I need that or whatever, and talking straight to the people and having a relationship, because y'all build relationships with your rod buyers. And that's another thing, is like, you got so many rod companies out there that the pro staff, that company don't even know who half the people they have on pro staff. And I'm sure Brian can
They're
know
just
it.
looking for
You and
sales.
Brian can know at least 95% of everybody that's on the pro staff, if not all 100%.
I know everyone that's on our pro staff. I mean, there's some of them, you know, you have people that fall off, or, you know, you get a new one. But I mean, I have a list, but I have them all on my phone, like named in my phone, contacts made. But we know everybody on our staff, and we talk to them regularly. So that's the difference. It's like I was saying, you're not going to get a secretary or an email. You're going to get us, and that's important to us too, because like you, Gavin, I mean, up where you fish in Fairy Wand land, you might think of something that you need, or some new technique might come out, or whatever that you use in your area, and we can listen to that, and like I said, if it's feasible, we can produce that. We have the ability to and the freedom to build whatever we want. So if it's feasible and it's something that's coming out, that's just like he said, the 7.6, the Demiki rod, and then we also have the 710 extra heavy with a mod tip. It's a glide bait rod. It's rated for up to 6 ounces, and it is a monster. It's awesome, but it's got the mod tip that'll give. You're not pulling those hooks away. So those are our two new rods that we put out, is the glide bait rod and the Demiki rod, and we can't keep them. I mean, they're going. And it's because we fish, and that's some of the things that we fish with. So, you know, it's a package thing, man. You get it all. We try to take care of our co-anglers, or I'm sorry, not co-anglers. We got on co-anglers.
No, you don't. You don't like co-anglers right now.
I love co-anglers, man. I wish I had co-anglers calling me like crazy right now. But no, our pro staff, you know, we give them good deals on our tier system, and I'm going to use Gavin as an example. I'm kind of over the pro staff, I guess you'd say, along with the other things that we do in the daily on a daily work day. But I use Gavin a lot as an example for a pro staffer, because Gavin, he has went above and beyond. And I'm not saying this just because we're on your podcast. I use you for an example, because in a year's time, he jumped up the ladder, and it's because we don't have any requirements on pro staff. You don't have to do social media. You don't have to do anything. What I want you to do is put our rod in somebody's hand at the ramp or at a tournament and say, "Hey, fish with this today." Because just the natural reaction of most people when they hold that rod is, "Wow, that's awesome. It feels great." And then when they fish with it, it feels even better. But with Gavin, he does post. He's not asked to do those posts. He does videos explaining how he caught his fish, what he caught them on, why he used that particular rod, and what that rod is. He brings us pro staff members. That's valuable to us. But it's not required. So he goes above and beyond. So guess what happens with Gavin? He moves up the ladder, right? And that's kind of how we treat people. I mean, you know, we've took care of Gavin, I think, pretty good, and sent him a couple things just to say thank you. And that's the way we do business. We don't you know, you don't have to buy everything. If you're doing a great job for us and we see that value, we're going to treat you right. And we appreciate you, Gavin, for that. And we wish we had 100 more like you. I mean, we have a great staff. Our guys do great. They send us pictures. They do all that kind of stuff. But I just wanted you to know I use you for an example a lot. And, you know, you got this podcast. You got an MMA hat on in your podcast. That's awesome. I know
Looks
Matt
better than the last
appreciates
one.
everything that you've done.
That last one you had before you got a new one was
But
rough.
Yeah, I think you still have it. in your
Yeah,
truck.
Cows was, little Cows was rough too. I actually
I think
did away
Cal's
with
was
it
a
today.
Trump one.
He left it. He left his dirty one in my truck from when you guys went to help us with the show, and I just did away with it. I mean, I may give him another one just because I did away with it, but it was bad. I was like, I don't think there's no coming back from this one.
I had the one I
but
had.
you guys
the
have done a
strap
lot.
was starting to break. The one I had, the strap was broken.
Yeah.
Like it was all the way
Well, you
across.
shouldn't have
was
such a
broken.
big head.
I don't even have a big head.
Yeah.
Look how tight it is. But going back to that, I appreciate you, Matt and Brian, for what you've done for me. But the one thing I love that y'all do is that you don't just if you help us grow our brand as well. The opportunities that y'all have put in front of me with my career has helped a lot. Just the other day, I was calling Brian and Matt about a battery situation. They got me on the phone with somebody. So just anything you have, that's awesome to know them because of, and if you know this just as well, Matt and Brian, nowadays with fishing industry, it's all about who you know. And
100%.
Matt and Brian, they know a lot of people
Yeah.
in the industry. So they're
Well,
willing to
and
help.
I'll give a big shout out to my buddy, you know, William Davis Sr. with Davis Bait Company, and not because it's Will's dad. I didn't know him. I didn't know Will from Adam, Will Jr. He's helped me so much getting started in this. He knows everybody in the industry. And I mean, he's been a godsend to me personally, to me in the fishing industry. And he's allowed me to pass along some of those relationships and some of that networking that he helped me create, not only to you, Gavin, but a lot of guys. I've got guys in Illinois. I've got guys in, you know, Florida. I've got guys all over that they need batteries or they need line or they need this, they need that. And that's what the industry is about. It's about the networking. It's about the relationships, and it's about being able to help each other, which I think is what we want to stand for. Do we want to be successful as a company? Absolutely. You can't be successful without making money, but you can help people along the way, and you can make people's life better as far as within the industry. And I mean, guys like Mr. Davis, he helped me a ton, and it's my job to pass that along too.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate y'all.
I'm going to add something on there real quick if you guys don't mind. Frog Togs. Mr. Fowler at Frog Togs has been real good to us as well. But the reason I said that is, well, he's awesome. Number one, products are great. I just got a little chilly, so I put my FTX Lite hoodie on. But I want to show you guys something. This is something new from Frog Togs. And, you know, Matt, I was showing Matt the other day. They came out. Matt was out of town, and I happened to meet up with Mr. Fowler at Frog Togs, and I picked up a couple of these. But I want to show you guys this, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I even make it big. There you go.
It's a blade bait bag from Frog Togs. Look how big this bag is.
About as big as your head.
It's got a zipper in the front. Big as Gavin's head. He's breaking the daggum hat. It's got a pocket in the front.
It's about as big as Cal is.
It's a
in that front pocket.
But look at these pockets. So these pockets, and there's several in there. I filled one of these up with glide baits, and it expands this way. to where you can fit a lot of stuff in here. I think Mr. Fowler said he got 2 3700 trays and a spinnerbait box and his buzzbait box into one bag. These things will hold a lot. So, like I said, I filled mine up with glide baits, and it's this thick. But they're in there. Each one of them's in their own little zipper pocket. But as far as bait carriers, these things right here are fire. You can go to Frog Togs and use Brian 20, Matt 20, and get a discount on those. There's I think we have a link on our website to Frog Togs, but that right there is, I'm putting just about every bait I have in one of those. I mean, there's going to be some you can't put in there. It's not feasible to do that, but all my bladed baits, all my chatter baits, spinner baits, buzz baits, glide baits, I'm going to put soft plastics in them. You can put hooks in them, packs of hooks. They're just really great to be organized and know what you're grabbing. That's the thing for me, is I want to know when I open that lid, hey, that red blade bait bag's got my hooks in it, or it's got my chunks in it, whatever. So you guys check that out as well.
The biggest thing with Frog Togs, I'm not even going to go into the product quality. I'm not going to go into any of that. I mean, Brian did a good job of that. It's the relationship with quality people that have like beliefs that we do about the industry. I mean, he's going to go above and beyond to help you as a person, as a fisherman, as an outdoorsman. He's just a good person. He stands for the right things, and that's what we want. So, hey, Gavin, by the way, I got to give a shout out. My mama's watching in Addie, Washington. That tells you how big you're getting right now. Backlash is kicking it, son.
That's right.
She's
Mama Adams.
An abominable snowman up by the Canadian border. And she has decided that she does not like Bass Track. She said that shit sucks. Refreshing it all day long, it stresses her out.
Hey, Mama Adams, don't be surprised if I jump in with Matt and Alex and come see you. But
up there with all she got is animals. So, hey, that's when you know you've arrived right there.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. But thank you all for being on here. We'll try to keep this rolling, Matt, with you after your tournaments. Hopefully every single one of them after this is good as they have been.
It's just so easy and all.
And we'll obviously have Brian back on here as well. Hopefully he can find a co-angler so he can fish a dang event.
Dusty, come on, buddy. Take those sick days, man.
I'm
come
working
on.
on. Hey, a couple free rides. I might better work something out. Free agent.
There's no such thing as a free ride.
You pay his entry, he'll take
such
care of
thing
it.
as a free co-angler neither.
Not nowadays.
Negotiations have started.
Hey, I'm just saying, free ride or boater on boater, you pick it, don't matter.
I'll tell you
It
this.
ain't gonna affect
This
me,
is what
man.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you this. Look, I'm old school, and I'll tell you this. If you'll sign up as my link, I'll let you have the front seat of the truck to sleep in, and I'll sleep in the back seat. What about that?
He'll even give you Cal's used hat.
But what if I get
I'm providing housing. I'm providing housing for you.
Now, Gavin said we could cuddle one time like that. Are you a cuddler? Because it kind of threw me off.
No.
He's trying to talk about being big
Littlefoot to get mad about that. Littlefoot will put you in your place on that one.
Yeah,
he's just saying because he's on a podcast. Normally, he says he's going to be Big Spoon.
Well, I am Big Spoon. Big Fish Brian can be Big Spoon. That's fine. One time.
Hey, as long as you got a place for him to plug in his sleeping machine, so he can sound like Darth Vader at night, he'll be all right.
Hey, just call me Maverick, Brian.
Exactly.
Just call me Maverick.
Those will change your life.
I say go to sleep, Goose.
Oh yeah, y'all been playing.
Gavin, don't make me give you some of Cal's coughing medicine.
I won't. We won't go to B-dubs this time.
That's a one time every 5 years for Cal.
We love you, Cal.
Well,
You little.
Can't get on a carnival ride and can't hold his shots, but hey, he's okay.
Well, I mean, he could be on this podcast defending himself, but he decided not to come tonight. So
that's funny. Well, we're gonna hop off here, boys. I appreciate y'all for coming in. Thank you everybody for watching. Because we got a bunch of new people. If y'all don't mind, if you're watching on Facebook, go over to our YouTube. It's the same as our Facebook, Backlash Boys podcast. We really appreciate that. Trying to get this to grow, get more people on here. We really appreciate that. But thank you two boys for being on here. Go check out MMA. You won't be disappointed with their rods, but we'll see y'all later.
Thanks,
All
guys.
See ya.
fight the bite.